I'm here in conversation with Pete Wells, one of Australia's unique guitar voices. Pete's been involved with two of Australia's seminal hard rock bands, Buffalo and Rose Tattoo, as well as fronting bands under his own name. Pete, what track would you say is most representative of your style? What would be the one that you'd be most proud of?
The one that's lasted is probably Rock and Roll Outlaw over the years. We went to Adelaide, remember, on tour down there, and one Saturday afternoon we sat around the motel room and wrote that song, so I remember that very well. Me and Geordie and a couple of boys, and that's the one that always keeps coming back, yeah.
Right. How did you? Who did you listen to when you were young? Who were the bands and the musicians you were into when you were young?
Well, the first thing I listened to was I used to listen to bass players. Initially I played bass in rock bands, and I was mainly the guys from the English guys from the 60s. I mean, Jack Bruce and Noel Redding and Andy Fraser and Bill Wyman, I suppose. People like that. You know, those sort of guys, bass players. I played bass in groups, and I started listening to mainly acoustic blues guitar players. That's what got interested in playing guitar.
Yeah. I was going to ask, having started on bass, did that give you a different perspective?
That's a good thing to learn. I mean, the bass is a good instrument to learn and play. It's good. All guitar players should play bass. It's imperative.
Yeah. Well, what's of all the songs that you listened to when you were young, the bands, what was the one song that turned your head? What was the one that really...
The song I remember actually hearing for the first time was Hollow Love by Led Zeppelin. And I was in Brisbane. We were at the railway station Sunday morning waiting for a train. All very romantic. We were waiting for some drugs to come in on the train, which we were going to pick up and sell. And that came on the radio. And I always remember that song, Hollow Love. And we were involved in a criminal activity, and it was all very exciting, and that's what...
Now, you mentioned Rock and Roll Outlaw. That's the song that you're most proud of?
I'm not that proud of it. It's one you want to remember the most, and when it re-emerges every so often, somebody will do a cover version of it, somebody will play it, and I went to a club and somebody will be playing it. I walked to the mall the other day, and I got the bank, and they're playing it in the mall. I haven't played it at the mall for a while, so, in the record shop in the mall. So it just turns up right here.
Could I ask you a little about your songwriting? How do you approach songwriting?
This was a deadline, isn't it?
So there'll be an album that you've got to make? And
Yeah.
Do you fiddle around with riffs and...
Not much, no. Not much. I mean, I usually write... I write a lot of words. I mean, I'll pencil out. I don't write so many words. I write a lot of lyrics. Most of them not much good. So I just write a pencil.
Right.
Wouldn't have a pencil. And cross them out. But, riffs, I just sort of muck around with. I don't really get the technology too much, so I get a blast from an acoustic guitar and just.
Are you a licks man? Do you have a stock of licks that you use, you like to use, or do you feel that you create an ambience or something every time for a new song? You just respond to
it depends what it is and what situation it is. I think. We're doing, depends what situation. If you do Rose Tattoo, well, it's pretty, you've done the same song 100 times, 1,000 times, so it's pretty standard, you know. You'll have a little bit of improvisation, but some of it's pretty stock standard. If you're playing a blues band, you have a different approach to it, or you're playing a pub, different approach, or you're responding with a singer, or depending on who you're working with, you know what I mean. It just really depends on.
Did you spend time working licks off records?
No, I just listen to generally maybe a scale. I mean, it's just a scale and sort of like screw around the scale, you know what I mean? Somebody like, you'll figure out one day that there's a blues guy, I'll play a blues scale or something, and then you'll think, well, okay, there's those notes, so you'll try and come up with something in that, within that framework, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of sounds okay.
Yeah. Are you self-taught?
More or less, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I went to the Conservatorium of Music for a while.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but I did stay very long. I did the first, what do they call them there? Terms. They used to call them like term. Okay. Yeah, so I did the first term, second term they wanted me to change to woodwinds. Oh, right. And because in those days, I mean, guitar wasn't respected at all. I mean, rock and roll wasn't respected. I mean, I wanted to do Johnny Cash songs. And they said, no, you can't do that. You got to play Tommy Tico, you know, jazz. Okay. Or something. And that's and they said, well, your guitar's not really an instrument, you know, you got to actually play sax, which I should have done. I play sax now, so I really enjoy it, but I didn't want to do it when I was a kid. And yeah, so yeah.
So you started with, you picked up the bass and started playing in bands, playing on bass, and why did you pick slide guitar especially? I mean, it's...
I just like the sound of it. In the early 70s, I like the sound of the acoustic end of it. I was playing bass in a heavy rock band, like I was saying before, and I bought a metal body dobro from Harry Landis. He used to have a music shop down in town, and my vision was I'd sit home and play the dobro and learn how to play this thing and play this blues thing, and when the band broke up, I'd become this legendary blues guy, which is pretty silly for that age, you know, in the middle 70s. But
who were the people that you were listening to on the played slide? Who did you like?
in those days, I mean, I listened to Johnny Winter, I suppose. Dwayne Allman I used to listen to. I mean, I wasn't a big Dwayne Allman fan, but I mean, I was just a clever guy. Rory Gallagher, the black guys in Hand Dog Taylor I liked a lot. Muddy I liked a lot. Listen to all the regular sort of Elmore James, just regular kind of guys, people that played it, you know, and people went from, you know, like it was the sort of Sunhouse and things like that to the electric kind of guys, you know, across the board, yeah.
Right. Well, you're not known to play straight guitar very much, but I have heard you do it on Lucy's album, but it wasn't something that really appealed to you, or?
No, I just never really appealed to me. I always liked open tunings. I always just play things in open tunings. So it always made much more sense to me, you know.
One thing I've often wondered, did you plan to have a career on music, or was there at some point you thought, well, when was the point that you realised you were going to have a career?
Well, really early in the piece. I mean, I wasn't going to. I mean, I knew people had jobs. I didn't seem to have much fun, and people I knew playing in rock and roll bands had an awful lot of fun. So that seemed a lot better to me, you know. Right? And when you don't think it's going to last forever, so it's quite easy to sort of go professional and leave your job. Don't go to work on Monday, you know.
Yeah.
So it was it wasn't an informed choice. It was just what happened.
So it just rolled on.
Yeah.
Okay, you've accomplished so much in music. What are the proudest moments you've had?
Well, the other night actually, the benefit was a big moment for me. That was a huge thing for me because that's something I never thought would ever happen to me. But it was a huge moment in my life. Just the whole thing about the gig. Yeah, that was
The camaraderie and
whatever it was. Yeah, it was everybody was the vibe was amazing. People who don't usually get on were getting on, and it's a good show, and we did one in Melbourne, and you know, it was just a big thing. Yeah, it's just something that I never thought would ever happen to me. I would never be involved with. You know what I mean? So.
What genre do you consider yourself to be playing within?
This is always get really annoyed about this because you know they say I really don't like the idea of genre as much at all. But you have to have lists, and you have to have apparently you have to have lists. You know, I mean, I say rock and roll, you know, but if you say rock and roll, people will take it rock and roll means this, or if you say blues, I think it means this, or if you say, you know, it's kind of misleading. I mean, the expression rhythm and blues, I mean, it used to mean a particular thing. Now it means something else. It's like black sort of urban music now, really. But it used to, when I was younger, it was the Animals or something, you know, it was English kind of R&B. So when terminology kind of changes, I don't really like putting categories. I mean, there's much more. Because things are like punk music's got a lot in common with, to me, with country music. You know what I mean? I always think, you know, in a way, and there's more in common with things than there is, you know. I mean, you see a band. I mean, you see a band like I don't know, the Detonators, who I like. You see a band like Johnny Green's band. I like. They call them Blues Cowboys, right? They play a bit of blues, a bit of country music, a bit of whatever. To me, it makes sense. I don't know if it does to a regular company executive, but it does to me. But it's probably to anybody else. But you know, it's just what category is that? I don't know.
Yeah, we talked a little earlier about that time with Guns N' Roses.
Oh, yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about your association with those fellows?
Well, we toured in America in 19 whatever year it was, I can't remember, and with Aerosmith, and we did a tour with Lizzie Top, and we did a tour with Pat Travers, a bunch of people, and they were kids just come along to see the show, really. The kids come along the gig. they couldn't get a record deal because what was getting record deals was bands like the Knack were getting record deals at that stage. My Sharona, that type of thing, that was the big thing. And those guys could give it away. There was a whole bunch of bands like this. There was them, and there was Motley Crue, and there was a whole bunch of them, 100 of them. They were sort of playing rock and roll a bit, and they all got tattoos and stopped being glam rock and became tough guys or something, and eventually got record deals. Some of them made $1 million, some of them didn't, But that's the Southern Association there. They used to come on and see the gigs and stuff. And years later, when they got a record deal, they sort of remembered where they started off, And
And they actually asked you to join at one point.
There's a different era, different world. It doesn't mean like you're going to join the band. It's like you're going to join the band here. Not much to do with joining the band, but it did do with joining the band in terms of the pop thing, But they'd been together a long time, trying to give it away, and they couldn't get arrested. And then they got a lot of money real quick, and one of them wanted to go, and they wanted to do a sort of show band thing for a couple of years really. And I was living in Queensland, and been a bit of a hippie at that stage, and didn't really suit my lifestyle. But and they weren't going to keep going then anyway. It was just a whole different world, It wasn't like joining the band, so everybody said, come and join the band. It was like, well, there's a corporate endeavour, we're going to do this and blah, 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 this and whatever it is, and this is what, There's not much to do with joining the band, in a rock sense, But then Lucy left, and they got the other fellow from, the fellow was playing Alice Cooper. What was his name? I don't remember his name. But the other guitar player for a while.
Steve Hunter?
Yeah, maybe somebody. And they had him for a while, and they had a couple of different guys, and they did a couple of tours, and they blah blah blah, they moved out and they broke up. And we played with them they toured here once, and then they went back, and they came back and toured. We did Eastern Creek, that era. Right. So we're playing with the band. I mean, they had a record, they had a couple of records out, and they did a punk album, which sold pretty good. And so it was sort of it was weird. I was on the dole. The first time I was on the dole in my life in Brisbane, on the Gold Coast. So I sort of signed the dole. So I was on a contract. I had to get a contract to a record label for a management company, and I signed on the dole. And next minute I got a letter that they'd sold 6 million records or something. Oh shit! Excuse me. So we had a I bought my sister-in-law a car, but it wasn't like Elvis buying Cadillac. It was a Mazda or something. You know what I mean? But it was the first Elvis thing I ever bought anybody.
6 million records.
No, they sold something ridiculous amount of records, and they sent the money.
Yeah.
Of a cover, the song. Jesus Christ.
Which song was it?
They did Nice Boys on a record.
All right.
Also.
Okay. That must be very satisfying to have like these big name bands.
Well, a bunch of other people record those different songs in Europe, but nobody's heard of much of them here. There's bands like Helicopters, and there was Helen Schneider, British Schneider. They did stuff. There's a whole bunch of sort of European bands that have done songs like Outlaw and Bad Boy for Life and Nice Boys and different things, which don't really mean nothing about Australia, but they sold pretty good over there, And there's been a couple of movies that soundtracks. Like there was one that followed Flea, what's that band called? Chili Peppers. There was a movie called Dudes that were in that, and there's a whole bunch of like cheap movies that have had soundtracks and things as well. Like that stuff, or people doing cover versions, and a lot of bands have done cover versions overseas. They don't mean nothing to anybody in Australia, but they sold a lot over the years,
Yeah. And you've done very well in Europe.
So it sort of kicked on. We went there in Jesus, whatever year it was, early 80s, initially. We had records released there. What happened with CBS in France, Bon Scott was always a big promoter of the band. He got us a deal with CBS in France, a fellow called Philippe Dewott, who had a label there. It was a big label, and we got us a release date in Europe, and he put the record out and went to it. They were pretty supportive of French initially, more so than English. And we went there and recorded. We didn't record, we toured there and eventually recorded. That's where it started. So toured in France since there. We started going back regularly about 1998, 2 or 3 times a year touring. Until I got sick and we stopped doing it. But that's just been going on.
Was there like a plan to do well in Europe, or was it again just something that happened?
No. No, just happened. No work ethic whatsoever.
Right.
Never had any work ethic in the band at all. So, yeah, never deserved it. It's like, I mean, it's a bit like AC/DC and all these people always had a work ethic and always tried very hard and worked very hard. We never did. We were laziest people in the world.
Wow. How do you find playing to a European audience as opposed to an Australian audience?
Well, I mean, a different language. It's not that much different, really.
Right.
I mean, so it's just a language barrier, really. I mean, the language barrier matches them to speak English. And, it takes you 5 minutes to speak a bit of whatever it is anyway, over there, to communicate somehow online.
And you played a fair bit in America too?
Yeah, probably.
Toured a lot over there?
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel a lot more home in Europe than you do in America. I do, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I just feel a bit more European than I do America. I don't feel American at all. Like, I mean, in terms of people, how they are, how people are, I don't really feel American. But you tend to feel, you can feel European, you know what I mean, I suppose.
Yeah. When you go to Europe, who are the bands that you're really impressed by? Who do you really like?
Well, you play the ones that you keep seeing years after year, the ones that you've done for years. I mean, the Motorheads are still around, and like Saxon and these sort of people, they're still playing. It's the same sort of people. There's a few young ones. The young ones are a bit more kind of punk rock, I suppose, punk rock sort of style. But it's just the old timers really just keep going. I mean, there's from the AC/DC, Rolling Stones, every time you go there's somebody touring like that, or like the gig guides for 65 or Sweet or whatever, all these sort of bands, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's much the same as here, clubs have got to look on hits and memories when the groups go through and the rock bands and, it's the same.
Yeah. Okay, Pete, well, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Nice talk to you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Tim.